As you can see, joining us now on the sofa, the Justice Secretary, the Deputy Prime Minister, Dominic Raab. Lovely to see you this morning.
Good morning.
And we do have a significant announcement on rape that we will get to, and I promise you we'll spend some time on that. But I do need to start with the resignation of Lord Geidt. Hand on heart, do you believe that this government always, 100% of the time, operates ethically?
Yes, I do. I think we're doing our best for the country. I think you've seen that through the pandemic with the vaccine rollout. I think you've seen it with getting the economy back up and running. I think you've seen the moral leadership the Prime Minister has shown on Ukraine. Do we make mistakes? Look, it happens. We're human, we're fallible. But actually, in relation to Partygate, which is what you're alluding to, Prime Minister held up his hand, he's apologised, he's overhauled Number 10. I do think also people expect us to get on with that crucial job, particularly with the cost of living challenge affecting so many people.
I completely agree. People definitely want you to get on with the job, but I do need to ask, why has a second ethics advisor resigned from this government? What are Lord Geidt's stated reasons for doing this?
Well, the stated reasons, of course, he set out overnight, but were very limited. So he just said he thought it was the right time to step down. Look, let me tell you what I know. First of all, he'd been engaged with the Prime Minister in Number 10 this week and discussing staying on for 6 months. So I think my understanding had been he was committed to the role. I think he had a pretty rough grilling by MPs this week. I think sometimes we in the media as politicians maybe underestimate how civil servants feel with that kind of scrutiny. And thirdly, there was a particular issue, commercially sensitive matter in the national interest, which he was asked to look at. I don't know which aspect of this. I suspect there will be, in fact, I know there will be an update from Number 10 later.
Which will be great, but that will be their response to his letter. Why have we not seen Lord Geidt's resignation letter? That's pretty unprecedented for such circumstances such as this.
Well, he's given a statement, and I can't tell you, I'm not a psychologist.
It's not a statement, it's a sentence. He has written in full to the Prime Minister, as people do generally when they're hired by this government and they choose to resign. They set out their reasons, at least for departure. He has done so to the Prime Minister.
But I don't know whether there's a full letter or whether a full letter in reply will come out. There'll be an update from Number 10 later today. Genuinely, Niall, as I always try and do I'm telling you what I know.
When will he be replaced? Because, with respect, it does rather feel that getting another ethics advisor might be a priority for this government.
No, look, I think the role's important. We'll do it as soon as possible. I think Number 10 have made that clear.
And you don't perhaps detect any problems in hiring a third ethics advisor in as many years? I mean, you hired a new cost of living czar the other day, David Buttress, who said that Boris has got to go, he just has to, you can't survive judgment like this. When you're at the point of having to hire people who have explicitly stated that Boris Johnson should resign, all is not well in government.
Well, I'm going to put it the other way. I think the fact that he is, notwithstanding previous tweets he may have made, willing to serve under this government, under the leadership of the Prime Minister, is a positive.
I think it says a number of things. I'm not quite sure that people will agree with you that it's a positive. I think it says something about Mr Buttress. But it's not just, of course, Lord Geidt that resigned this week. Last week, you had the anti-corruption czar resign, John Penrose.
Well, look, John's an MP. I think he was clear on his criticisms of the Prime Minister. I've worked with him on things like the Magnitsky sanctions. I'm afraid I just disagree. I mean, look, we know that there are Conservative MPs who have been critical of the Prime Minister, but he had 59% support, and we're getting on with the job, as I mentioned.
OK, you mentioned 2 in 5 of your parliamentary colleagues, in a best-case scenario, basically all of the backbenchies, feel that the Prime Minister does not have the ability to lead either the party or the country. The anti-corruption czar goes last week, making his complaints very public. We have Lord Geidt 2 days ago saying that it would be reasonable to say that the Prime Minister had broken the ministerial code, and then he resigns the following day. You take all of that together, and it is your position that this does not reflect badly on the Prime Minister.
Look, I think we've had a difficult patch, but we're getting on with the job. You haven't really asked me any questions with respect, and you're always forensic.
OK, here we go. Does any of that reflect on the Prime Minister's integrity?
Look, no, I asked all these questions Monday last, when we had the vote of confidence. 59% of MPs backed the PM. We're getting on with their job. The challenge of the cost of living. We've still got an acute issue in relation to Ukraine. That can't just slip off the radar. And I'm talking about rape courts and the crucial job we're doing fighting crime and giving women greater confidence in the justice system.
OK, here's the really simple question. To lose not 1 but 2 ethics advisors and an anti-corruption czar, your position is that does not reflect negatively on the Prime Minister's integrity. I mean, that's nonsense.
Well, in relation to Lord Geidt, it's not clear to me at all that what the reason is. And so, I mean, I think you've been asking me about that. There are clearly these issues around the other commercially sensitive matter which he was engaged on or asked to advise on. My understanding was that, again, to the best of my knowledge, as of earlier this week, he was planning or he was hoping to stay on for another 6 months. He's obviously had that grilling in front of MPs. So I think the risk is you're adding 1 + 1 and getting 3, but I understand why you're asking the question. There'll be a further update from Number 10 later today.
Would you, if you were in Number 10 right now, not republish the statement, the letter that he wrote to the Prime Minister? You may have to redact if there are issues of national security or whatever else. You can redact the letter. But the fact that you haven't put in the public domain the resignation letter of the second ethics advisor to depart government looks awful.
Well, look, I only know what he said. I didn't know, and I don't know whether he's written a letter or not. What I do know is Number 10 will provide an update later on today. So you're not going to have to wait too long. I appreciate all the gaps. What I always like to do when I come on here is tell you to the best of my knowledge what I know.
And I always appreciate it. Let's dwell a little bit closer to your brief on the issue of Rwanda. The front of the Daily Mail this morning seems to suggest that you would be willing, or the government is considering at some point in the future, ignoring decisions, judgments handed down by the European Court of Human Rights. It was barely 24 hours ago. Your colleague Therese Coffey was sitting there telling me that this was a law-abiding government. I mean, that's nonsense, if this is true.
No, again, a slight caricature of what is a complex legal position. So, first of all, we'll be introducing and publishing our Bill of Rights shortly. One of the issues that's arisen is whether Strasbourg has a power of injunction. Now, this issue on whether these deportation flights should be stayed pending a further trial of a further hearing of all the issues in a few weeks' time was considered by the High Court. Mr. Justice Swift, read the judgment, it's very interesting. He clearly said, no, there's no need for an injunction. It was then considered by the Court of Appeal. They backed him wholeheartedly. Supreme Court said there was no leave to appeal to the Supreme Court. I think when 3 courts, and I have got great respect for the judiciary in this country, have considered and dismissed the issue. It is not right for Strasbourg to intervene in the way it did.
You're the lawyer. Where does it go? Where does the European Court of Human Rights sit? High Court, Court of Appeal, Supreme Court. Where does the ECHR?
So first of all, actually, the European Convention, if you look at it, has no power of injunction, and indeed the Strasbourg Court.
We have followed judgments of the ECHR since
no, it's a very
80%. You're
not going to get the answers your viewers need unless you just allow me to briefly explain it. I'll take any question you like on this issue. The Strasbourg Court itself has said for many years that there's no binding power of injunction, and then later on they said, well, actually, we can issue such binding judgments. It is not grounded in the Convention. What I would say to you is we should abide by the Convention, but so should the Strasbourg Court. And on this specific issue of whether Strasbourg can injunct the UK, our Bill of Rights will correct that, and I think it's the right thing to do, precisely because we should be following the Convention, but also, so should the Strasbourg Court.
Are you considering stepping back from the European Convention on Human Rights, changing it? Yesterday, Therese Coffey appeared to suggest no. At lunchtime, the PM spokesman appeared to suggest yes.
Well, look, if you're asking me forever and a day, I think we need to see No, our plan, and I've already consulted on it so everyone can see, is a Bill of Rights that reflects and remains within the European Convention but overhauls the framework of the Human Rights Act and makes sure that we can fully avail ourselves of what's called the margin of appreciation, which is what the Strasbourg Court says national jurisdictions are allowed to do, in particular in cases like this.
OK, let's talk just briefly. One final point in all of this. I mean, the Prime Minister has accused your former colleagues in the legal profession as abetting the work of criminal gangs. I just want to show you one tweet. Keelan Gallagher is a QC. She has basically... She's had to have a conversation with the police because of threats that have been made to her life. If we can get it into the wall, today I met a police officer about death threats I've got for being a human rights lawyer. Today I read the PM's words criticising lawyers representing asylum seekers. These things are not unrelated. This government is undermining the rule of law and putting us all at risk. At the very least, will you push back on this idea that anyone who represents an asylum seeker about to be deported to Rwanda is some form of lefty lawyer, whatever that is?
Well, look, so first of all, let me choose my words very carefully as the Justice Secretary. I think that I've already been very complimentary, I think, about the role of our judges. I don't comment on individual cases, but as I mentioned, High Court, Court of Appeal and Supreme Court on these issues, I believe we should respect their rulings.
Is Keelan wrong to draw a line between the Prime Minister's words and the death and the threats to her life that she has seen.
Look, any threat to any lawyer or anyone else, and politicians get this a lot, and I know journalists do, absolutely unacceptable. But the point that the PM made is this, and look, I know the lawyers worked heroically through COVID, and with the backlog, we need them, and they're crucial to getting the backlogs down.
Could you tell your colleagues that, then?
Hold on. I also think...
I'm sorry, no, come on.
I also think it's fair to say that we've got, with the Human Rights Act, elastic interpretations of human rights, an industry that has grown up, which of course will want to take advantage of those in their interest of their clients. And I think it's right to say we want to reform some of that. But I also would say we've got a world-leading legal profession. It's one of the great exports we have around the world, and I'm very proud of them, and there are no threats against them that can ever be justified.
They will be very pleased to hear you say that. Let's now go to your announcement. And as I said, it is a significant announcement, but at the same time we should also point out, for the time being at least, a pilot. Well,
yes, and actually we ought to pilot things to see the evidence.
Of course.
Let me make 2 points. First of all, the backlogs because of the pandemic, the plight of cases, particularly for rape victims, I think is...
It's gotten worse. It was bad beforehand. Come on.
Let me answer the question. Actually, in the last year, convictions in rape cases have gone up by 2/3. I want to go further, faster, and really grip this issue, and there's a whole range of things we're doing. What I'm announcing today is 3 specialist courtrooms kitted out to deal with rape and serious sexual violence. We've chosen Snaresbrook in London, Leeds and Newcastle, because they've got a high volume of rape cases and significant backlogs. We're kitting them out with the video technology, the trauma-trained court staff, and the independent sexual advisors for 2 reasons. First of all, morally, we must put our arms around those most vulnerable, traumatised victims. It's the right thing to do. Second of all, that will drive up further the volume of convictions, which I want to at least double over the course of this Parliament.
And just on that point, to conclude, I do have to let you go, but the reason that this is a significant announcement is because for a number of years now, this country has been performing incredibly poorly when it comes to securing rape convictions. 2015-16, we had 4,643. 1,557 up to 2020-2021. Some have accused this government of failing women. You may well be putting it right, but you have to concede that for a number of years now, this government has been getting it wrong.
Well, of course, the police are independent, the CPS are independent, the judiciary are independent, but have the numbers been too low? Absolutely. We should be absolutely crystal clear. We're doing a whole range of things. The police and the prosecutors under Operation Satyra, which I look at with Kit Malthouse, the Police Minister, is getting a better collaborative approach between them. We're overhauling the disclosure rules. We've got more pre-recorded victim evidence, so the victims of rape don't have to give their evidence in front of the glare of the courtroom. We've got these specialist courtrooms fitted out. And can I just say, again, the volume of convictions in rape cases is up by 2/3.
From a low level, from very...
OK, but even from 2019, they're up by close to 1/3. And the length of time between charge and completion of cases is down by 38 days on last year. Is there a major challenge? Absolutely. Have the levels of convictions been too low? Absolutely. Are we making progress? Undoubtedly.
Next time we speak, we will dwell on the pilot a little bit more. Dominic Raab, thank you for being with us.
Good to talk to you.